what I did in the camp and how I survived there. They marched us out, again, put us on trains. There was an incident on the train. We stopped on a train station where there was a German army train right next to us. There was an air raid again. They were shooting up the whole place. When the shooting was over, there was a friend of mine sitting next to me. I said, I kind of showed him, I said, no, it's over. He didn't reply. I said, it's over. I shoved him again. He fell over, and I saw a row of bullets in the back. He was killed immediately. Obviously, the air raiders didn't know what train it was. I mean, they saw a German train, military train next to us. They were shooting at everything. There was another friend of mine on the other side of me. He had a hat. He takes off his hat. He says, "How do you like that?" He says, "They made a hole in my hat." He was worried about it. They missed his head, but they got this is the picture that I showed you of the guy, and he lives in Israel now. Our train, he says, "Who are these people?" He says, "Oh, they're Jews. They're being taken to a camp." He says to him, "Are you crazy? I have a train full of wounded soldiers. We don't have enough trains to take our soldiers back from the front, and you're wasting a train to take Jews?" The assessment said to him, "If you don't shut up, you're going to be dead also." End of conversation. The train took off again, and the worst part on the train was no water. It was horrible. You can live without food for some time, but water, it drives you crazy. It was still winter, and I used to scrape the ice from the side of the walls and suck on it. Again, there was no place to relieve ourselves. So we had a little corner, and you improvise. You know what to do. I had a blanket with me. I used to cut off a little square of the blanket, sit on that little square, do what I had to do, and throw it out the window. Sometimes I missed, and I was in trouble. We came to one of the last places, Mauthausen. Again, a long walk from the train to Mauthausen. They took us into the showers, got undressed, and I was standing there with my mouth open, drinking the water. They let us out from the shower to the barracks. They didn't give us any clothing. We had to run through the snow to our barracks. In the barracks, there was a pile of clothing, and we had to pick whatever we could find. I found something which was okay for me. This was the main camp of Mauthausen. It was on two levels. One was a higher level, one a lower level. They then transferred us to the lower level. We had to go down a flight of stairs. We were there about 4 weeks. They transferred it out to another camp from Mauthausen called Zeltenlager. I'm trying to make it short now. The whole camp was intense. The camp was full of Hungarian Jews. I didn't understand Hungarian, and very few of them spoke Yiddish. No food, no water, nothing. We were dying by the dozens every day, every day. I was in one tent. I wanted to go to a second tent. It was late in the evening because my friends were in a second tent. I go out. I run into a German officer, an SS guy. He says, "Where are you going?" He says, "Hey," I wasn't going to answer him. I turned around and started running. He ran after me. He took out his gun. He emptied everything on me. I had enough seichel to run in zigzag. He missed me. I ran into the tent where I was originally, and I told some of the kids, there was no electricity, that's my lifesaver. Hide me quickly. They threw a blanket over me, got on top of me. It was quiet, and when he came into the tent, he looked, he couldn't see anything. He walked out. That same night, there was a bombardment. There was a bomb that came down in the tent where I wanted to go in. People were killed there. In the morning, there were bodies torn apart on the fence. And let me tell you, this is the first time that I heard of and saw cannibalism. People were so hungry, they had little pots, they made little fires, and were trying to eat those pieces of flesh. The SS officers saw them and they shot them. Again, they took us out from that camp. Again, another death march to the last camp. The camp was called Gunskirchen. That was April. They finished building the camp April 24th, 1945. I was liberated May the 5th. It was a camp built for only 400 people. There were 17,000 people in that camp. No toilet facilities at all. No bunk beds. No nothing. It was in a forest. It was raining constantly. People had dysentery. We were totally full of lice. The only food we got was poisoned soup. I spent one night in the barrack. There were so many dead people that I couldn't walk. I decided to climb a plank, like a beam that you have the gymnasts, who walk on. I climbed on that beam. I stayed there all night. And I figured I can't do it again, because if I have to get off the beam, I'm going to be on top of the dead people. I got out of the camp and I slept in the on the forest floor. It was all wet. A friend of mine and me, we put blankets, one underneath, one on top, and this is how we slept. On the 4th of May, I didn't see any German soldiers anymore. And what do I see? The Hungarian Jews, they were there. They are walking around with their rifles. This is a good sign. Jews are carrying rifles. On the 5th of May, a jeep with American soldiers came in, the 71st Division. They were in shock. And most of the people could not walk anymore. They were dying all over the place. The group of my people decided we're going to walk out of here. We're not staying here anymore. We walked out on a road. We saw the troops, the American troops, marching in one direction. I figured, well, they're going this way, they're chasing the Germans, we better go the other direction. We came to a little Austrian house, and we asked for food, and I said we didn't know anything about it. The camp was only about 5 or 10 miles from there. And then we get out on the road again, and the German troops, we kept throwing us chocolates and food and so on. That was the wrong thing to do. I was so sick, I thought I was going to die. Anyway, that was my last university. Didn't get a degree from there. Oh, no, it's okay. No, there are too many more stories to go. No, it's okay.
Tell us how you got to the United States.
Okay, I'll leave you on a good note. I found my mother after the war. My father was killed in Dachau.
Your sister?
My sister survived, yes, with my mother. They survived. They were liberated in January, which is almost 4 months before I was liberated. Most of the people died in the last few months. I'll tell you. Get to it. When I was liberated, the question for me was, where do I go? I had no place where to go. I didn't want to go back to Lithuania. I figured they don't like us there anyway. I run into a Russian officer, because Austria was occupied by the Russians and the British and the Americans. A colonel, a Russian colonel. I look at him, boy, you look Jewish to me. I said, you Jewish? He says, yes. That's Yiddish. Yeah, I speak Yiddish. He asked me where I'm from. I said, from Kovno, Lithuania. He says, don't go back there, he says. They don't like you. I took his word for it. A day later, I run into Israeli soldiers from the Jewish brigade. There were about 10,000 of them. And I tell you, this was some sight. Jewish guys with the stars of David, the Mogen David here on top, and they talk Hebrew, they talk Yiddish, with the Tommy guns. Unbelievable sight for me. We'll take you to Israel, they said. You'll come with us. They collected all the Jewish boys, took us on trucks, took us over the Alps to Italy. And this is where they were stationed. They had her stationed there. In the evening, Shabbos, they made Shabbos. They danced the Hora. It was an unbelievable sight for me. They took us then in trucks towards the southern part of Italy so that we could go on boats to Israel. I came to a little town on the Adriatic Sea, Santa Maria di Bagni, and they put us up in orphanages. Life in that orphanage was fairly decent for me. It was on the Adriatic Sea. I used to go down and swim every day. Used to go down and have a meal from the United Nations. And the soldiers used to come and visit us on a regular basis. We took us on a truck to drive us around, make us feel good. Wonderful. A correspondent from Israeli paper came to interview the children, interviewed me and tell them who I am. You have family in Israel? I said, I think I have a cousin. Her name is Bertha. Okay. You have family anyplace else? Said, yes. 1819 Wesley Avenue in the United States, in Evanston. That was it. My mother happened to read that paper in Hungary. She knew where I was, so she came looking for me. She comes to the little town Santa Maria di Bagni. She gets off the bus and she asks the people, kid, they all knew me because I used to be called the gypsy. I was very dark-skinned. Yeah, we know what a gypsy is. He says to her, come on, I'll show you where he is. So he runs ahead of time. He comes into where I was and he tells me, hey, come here, he says. What do you think would happen if you meet your mother? He says, meet my mother. What do you think what would happen? It would be fantastic. He says, come with me. Puts his arm around me. We walk out, and I was on top of a hill. And going down the hill, I see from far a woman walking. He says, can you see that woman? I look. It's my mother. I started running down the hill. She started coming up the hill. We hugged. What can I tell you? She says, your sister is alive. She is in Florence. I'll take you. We go back to Florence. Met my sister there. And all the kids in that orphanage, they all made Aliyah. They all took him to Israel. And I went with my mother, and we lived in Rome, and then we got in touch with the American family here. They sent us packages, salami, chocolate, everything. It took us 4 years to come to the United States. I don't think the United States wanted us either, but that's another story. Anyway, this is how I wound up in the United States. Thank you.
If we could rise for a Kamali Rachamim, please, in memory of all your friends, family that perished, and in their memory, let's make sure that we make the future a proud one for the Jewish people, and for Israel, and for our destiny. El Malei Rachamim Shochein Bamromim, Dayan Almanot Ve'avi Yitomim, Hamtzei Menucha Nechon Al Kanfei HaShechina, V'Malo Kedoshim Utorim Gezohar Ki Amasirim, L'Nishmo Rivavot Alfei Yisrael Anashim Nashim Vatav, Shenergu V'Shenishchatu, V'Shenechneku V'Shenisrefu V'Shenishberu Chayim, Al Kiddush Hashem. Kulam kedoshim u'tahorim u'vayim gonim v'tzadikim. Arzei alvanon v'adirei Torah bala rachamim. Yastireim v'seker knafav l'olamim. V'yitzror b'torachayim nishmotayim v'gan eden temeluchatam. Adonai u'nalachatam. Yizkor akedatam etamod lanu. U'lecho yisrael tzidkatam. Eretz. Al techasi damam ve'al yimakom zakatam Yisutam yashuvu nidchei Yisrael lachuzutam Ve'achdoshim zichron tamid neged Adonai yamdu legoralam Yavo shalom ve'anuchu al mishkevotam Ve'yakumu leketza yamin lachayotam Ve'nomar
Amen.
Dr. Clevs, I want to thank you.
On Shabbat, when we sing Adon Olam, and I see all the children come up here, all the beautiful little children, it makes my heart feel great.